And we are live LinkedIn. Join us as we talk about what is leadership mentoring.
Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number two is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Being willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles. I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box in a shell, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born. The world is my networking event, right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life.
All right, here we are. Well, welcome everybody. Excited to have you on here with us, and hopefully you're chiming in with where you're from, what city and state you're from, and you're getting in the comments and participating and networking and connecting with each other. We're all about that in our community here. So we're going to talk today about many of us have leadership roles, whether that be in business or in your family or in community, but the question is, are we truly mentoring and bringing others along? Famous author and leadership guy is John Maxwell, one of my favorite authors. And he wrote this phrase, is a leader is the one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And I don't know if it was Confucius who said this, but he said, if you think you're a leader and you're out going for a walk, but no one's following you, then you're merely just taking a walk, right? So but we all need a mentor in our life. I'm really blessed to have people in my life that have taken up that mantle. And I have, a mentor in several different parts of my life. And the term mentor originated with the character of Mentor in the Homer Odyssey. And I'm not one of these, super scholar kind of guys. We're going to hear from a guy, Bruce, who's extremely educated. So, but it's an ancient Greek epic poem dating back around 3,000 years. And Odysseus entrusted his young son, Telemachus, to the care of Mentor, his trusted companion. And when he goes to fight in the Trojan War, and that's when he kind of, does this mentoring, if you will. And that's where it kind of was born. And today's speaker has not fought in the Trojan War, although he has some years on him for sure, but he's not that old. Okay. But he has an extremely fascinating background. So if you're ready, amazing community, if you're ready for Cameron to introduce our amazing speaker, I want you to type in the comments right now, type in the word ready if you're ready to hear Cameron introduce them. So again, type in ready right now. All right, community. And Cameron, I'll pass it to you, sir.
Now I want to shout out Grace Buffett checking in from Michigan. We got Diane Light Spiro, Mama Spiro checking in from Poughkeepsie. We got Michelle Kimbrough checking in from Montana. So if you're watching right now and you're not letting us know where you're tuning in from, or you're not typing in ready, then I need you to get ready with your fingers. Let's go. All right, Diane Light Spiro, Mama Spiro in the house. She is ready to go. Type ready. We're going to get fired up here. I'm going to read Mr. Bruce Crowder. I'm going to bring him in here. Here we go. There he is. All right. Bruce Cryer has spent the past 40 years researching and teaching innovative approaches to maximizing health, resilience, and human performance. He was named president and CEO of HeartMath LLC in 2000, having helped launch the nonprofit HeartMath Institute with founder Doc Children in 1991. For 8 years prior, he served as vice president for a biotech company specializing in nutritional approaches to health and well-being. Bruce was the key architect of programs that incorporated HeartMath's innovative biomedical research into practical tools and strategies to enhance health, performance, creativity, innovation, and productivity for both the individual and the organization. He successfully guided HeartMath programs at organizations such as Mayo Clinic, Duke University Health System, Stanford School of Medicine, UCSF's Center for the Health Professions, and dozens of corporations, health systems, and government agencies across the U.S. He has worked extensively with both clinical and administrative leaders throughout the U.S. and within the national health services in both Scotland and England. He has led retreats for health professionals in Italy and has been a regular speaker at the American Congress of Healthcare Executives for the past decade, as well as Health Forum's Leadership Summit and Rural Healthcare Leadership Conference. Mr. Cryer is co-author of From Chaos to Coherence, The Power to Change Performance. Please welcome to the show the boss of business, Mr. Bruce Cryer.
All right, Cameron, that was awesome. That was the most unique introduction I think I've ever had. So I appreciate you for all that.
Oh, my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. So I love it. We got people in the chats. They're saying they are ready for you, Mr. Cryer. We got Michelle from Montana. We got Grace from Michigan. Diane Late Spiro says she's ready. Val says she's ready. Grace says she's ready. Susan says she's ready. And Sharon Mundy says, hi, dear Bruce. Lovely to be here in support of your awesomeness. I am a huge fan and love his heart and work. Peter Giannini, my friend, chef friend, Mr. Peter Giannini says, let's go. And Sharon says, wow, what a bow. You're cracking me up. Here we go. All right, everybody. Steve, let's get the show started here.
Absolutely. Well, listen, you know, they say if you're in the room and you're the smartest guy in the room, then you're in the wrong room. Well, I know for sure I'm in the right room here because there's no doubt about it. I am not the smartest person in this room. No doubt about it. I am very humbled to be here with you, sir. But all right, community, thank you for your participation. We're going to ask you for another piece of participation right now. If you're excited, we want you to type in the word excited right now. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ask Bruce this question, right? We want to hear Bruce. So to make sure you hit excited because he's not going to start talking until you type the word excited. Okay. But we would love to hear your backstory. I know it's a very long backstory. In fact, Cameron, when reading your bio, he had to edit it a lot out because there's tons of stuff there. But how did you become such an awesome mentor? And tell us in terms of the story, if you can, and give us a little background on that, please.
Wow. What an introduction again. You know, it's sort of like you, I think, Stephen. When I look back at my career, starting when I was an actor and singer and dancer in New York, which we didn't get into that part of the story yet, I had some amazing mentors that brought me to ideas that I never even dreamed I might do, like being a singer in a Broadway musical, like being a dancer, like teaching at Stanford University, which I've been doing now for 25 years. I felt throughout my career and all the different facets of things that I explored, there was always some mentor who had been down that path, knew the path, was expert in the path, could teach me things about the path. And I just kind of absorbed that style of work. And at a certain point in my career, 40 years later, roughly, I started to look back and realize, I think people want to hear my backstory. They want to hear how I got from here to there and from there to there and from there to there. And especially because in these days, a lot of people are struggling with where they're at in their career. They're looking for a change, or they've gone through some major issue. I mean, what has not happened to us in the last 2.5 years, for example, where it's kind of forced the issue where, wow, that industry is gone or that way of doing business doesn't exist anymore. What do I do now? And they look at me, who has had to reinvent myself a few times in my life, and says, wow, he's been through it. so he could probably mentor me through this very challenging set of decisions that I'm trying to go through right now with my family, me and my family. So I just, after a while, I realized I think I really love doing this, actually, kind of sharing myself in ways that might be useful to another person, while at the same time coaching them to be the best them that they can possibly be. Right.
That's amazing. Well, first of all, me being now living in Stamford, Connecticut, I just want to clarify for us East Coast people that it's Stanford with an N, not an M, right? And it's a very
Right.
prestigious school. When you come from Stanford, it's a kind of a working town. I think the slogan for Stanford, Connecticut is the town that works. Okay. So little different, but yeah, amazing. And I think the thing that I'd love to just point out before we ask the next question, and thank you for that, Bruce. So if you're ready for the next question, I want you to start typing in the word yes in the comments, right? Please type in yes if you're ready for the next one. But what I want to comment on is this. I talk to a lot of young people, a lot of people coming out of college, going into college. And I think they're looking for like this magical thing that they're going to do, that they're just going to be like, this is it. Okay, I'm going to be this. And it's such a tough decision. But hearing and we haven't heard it all yet, I'm sure, right? Like it wasn't even read about in the bio when Cameron did the bio of you. He didn't even talk about the acting and singing part of it, right? So you've done so many different things. I think it's refreshing for a lot of people to hear that, listen, you don't have to just pick one track and think that that's going to be the way you're going to live your life. You've had an incredible career. And like me, I think like Cameron to some degree, a lot of twists and turns along the way, right? And it's just,
Exactly.
but it's been amazing. And along the way, you've touched a lot of lives, right? You've impacted a lot of people. And it doesn't have to be in, again, that one career, right? Again, in singing and acting, I'm sure you touch people in a certain way. And then in some of the things you've done in the healthcare world, right? There's other ways. And, you being a cancer survivor, there's all sorts of things you've done, right? So anyway, all right. So we're going to get into that. But again, thank you for that. And I'd love to hear just a quick perspective from you on that long journey, that long, as the Beatles would say, long and winding road, right? Of your career. And would you have ever thought that where you started is where you are right now?
Not in a million years. Well, I reflect about my dad, who was a Depression kid, college in the Depression. And he worked for the same company for 35 years. And he commuted from our home in suburban New Jersey into Manhattan for 35 years. And he worked in one industry, two different companies in 35 years. Or actually probably more like 40 years. I, on the other hand, in the same length of time, have had probably 40 career changes. I'm slightly exaggerating, but many, from acting to biotech to publishing to this incredible research and training organization called HeartMath. And then, thanks to the different health issues that I went through about 2 years ago, realized there was another phase that was supposed to unfold for me, and I wasn't sure even what that was. And before long, I realized part of it was to sing again. And then after I'd had surgery to replace both my hips, I discovered I could actually dance again. And suddenly I'm doing creative things in a significant way and actually getting paid for it from time to time. And that opened up a whole stream of creativity that was in me all along, but I had kind of kept on the back burner because I was managing businesses and traveling all over the place to teach and consult and doing all this stuff. And a part of me was missing. And I think these days, the vibe and the mindset and the expectation is so different. I mean, to me, we're still a little bit hanging out in the attitude that, God forbid, in your 40s or early 50s, you should question the career you're in and think about, maybe I should be doing something different. Maybe I want to do a startup and it's a vegan restaurant, or run an Airbnb in Vermont, or whatever. God forbid we should have thoughts like that, because we'll be criticized for having a midlife crisis. Like that's a bad thing. In my opinion, is, wait a minute. We're born with the power to create life. Every single human on the planet, whether we ever do it or not, is not the point, but the power to create. And it's not just, in my opinion, to create another life. It's to create in life in general, to create our life. And when we're young, we're constantly creating new things and not even realizing. We're learning how to ride a bike. We're learning how to speak language. We're learning how to do math. We're learning all kinds of skills, and we're growing and developing. We keep giving birth to new parts of ourselves. And then at some point, usually around college or after, we start to think, oh, can't do that anymore. We got to got to get serious now about a career and a family and all that. And the idea that we're still creative beings, no. That was then. That was when we were kids. But now you got to be an adult. And I'm saying, why? Why would we not want to still have that creative energy alive in us, especially as we're getting older, especially to stay fresh and alive and flexible? I think one of the things that this idea of having kind of on-demand creativity whenever we need it is because of things like this pandemic, where it has forced the entire human race to find levels of flexibility, adaptability at times when we didn't want to have to do that. And we still don't want to have to do that. Well, it's what was happening. So we've had to learn flexibility in all kinds of new ways. And that's not easy for a lot of us. So to me, there's an attitude here of, instead of being worried that, oh my God, what if I decide I wanted to change my career later on? What if it was the opposite? That what if we weren't actually designed, because we're human, unlike other species who don't appear to be able to do this, we get to continually redefine and continually create our life anew. To me, that is awesome. And as somebody who's turning 69 in a month, and I don't feel 69. In fact, I had a biological age test done a year ago, and I was 31 years younger than my biological age, than my chronological age. So I don't believe in age being an issue necessarily, but my point is, when we're in that creative mode and saying, hey, I could still do this, I could still do that, that youthful approach to life keeps us youthful. It's not accidental that people that embrace life in that way. And so that's part of what I want to mentor people about too, because at different stages, you start to hit those mindsets of, I'm about to turn 69, I'm about to turn 70, God forbid, or when I was 60. And the mindsets limit us in ways that we didn't intend, but it's what happens. So to part of my job, I feel like as a mentor, is just to say, well, look, number one, you're not alone. I've faced what you're going through multiple times and gone through the dark night of the soul on multiple occasions, wondering, was I making the right decision? But at the end of the day, it's your life. At the end of the day, you want to be fulfilled in your life, even if you're bucking the trend in some of the decisions you're making.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. And I also can relate to the whole, age is a number kind of thing. I every Sunday I do a weigh-in. My wife and I do a weigh-in, and we have one of those scales that does metabolic age and body mass index and all those things. And I'm 30 years younger than what I'm showing on the scale. Let's just say it like that as well. So it's awesome. And on the metabolic age side of things. And so it's great. It's important to stay youthful, and some of that is physical, some of that is mental. I love surrounding myself with young people, people that are 20, 30 years younger than me, because I believe that keeps me youthful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. If I start hanging out with people that are my age, who don't necessarily look my age, they look a lot older to me, a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think, in fact, I had a job a couple of years ago, and I said, I'm tired of being the youngest person around here. And I was actually the second oldest.
Yeah.
But in terms of vibe and attitude, it was like, hey, I'm the one that was, hey, let's go, guys. We can face this. We're going to get through this. But that ability to be playful and not say I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
I know there's a question in the chat about how do we make the change in our career. Well, that's a deep question. Meaning, I think number one, you've got to pay attention. In my case, the different changes that I made, the biggest one probably, well, there were two major ones. One was to leave the show business profession completely and move from New York City to California to start a whole new life. That was a huge decision. And yet part of me just felt like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I didn't know why, I didn't know who was telling me this. It just felt like this is what I'm supposed to do now, even though it's a huge, huge change. 30 years later, when I felt like it was time for me to step down as the CEO of this remarkable organization called HeartMath, it was a really hard thought to even have at first. But then after a while, it was like, there was something more, something next for you to do. And so I had to, in both cases, really pay attention to that impulse that was quiet in me at first. And I think a lot of people are having this. they're thinking, I think I need to make a change, but I'm not sure what it is. You know, they aren't necessarily drawn to that one thing. So I think what part of where you start is just to give yourself quiet time on a regular basis. A lot of people, and I'm one of them, loves to journal in the morning and just pay attention to what am I noticing in my emotions? Is there some ongoing stress that I'm having in my job right now that's not just the person involved, but maybe it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't even be doing this kind of thing. And so I think one of the first steps is to really pay attention to what's your emotional world. What are your feelings telling you? And then allow some time for this, because this is not a rush. This is not go to a weekend workshop and then you got to figure it out and we're off and running. When I've mentored people who are in that kind of, they know there's something next, but not sure what it is, I've said, well, number one, there's no rush, because unless you're destitute now and need to make a change instantly, that's another story. But in most cases, people have a job in there, but it's not quite feeling right. It's not, the career isn't resonating as much as it once did. And so you want to give it some time, but you also want to be honoring every impulse in you, because that's a voice of a part of you that needs to be heard. Doesn't mean you can follow every single thought you have or every single idea. So, it's first of all, getting quiet enough inside through a practice like journaling. Second of all, honoring what's going on in there. And then opening yourself to the possibility that what if, as strange as this might sound compared to what I've done before, like, for example, I'm now running an integrative health institute at a university. If somebody had told me 3 years ago I would be doing that, I would have said, two aspects of that don't sound right. That I'd be working for a university and that I'd be running an integrative health institute. Other than that, it sounds great. And yet I'm doing it. And so a lot of times we can't foresee what that next step is going to be. It's not necessarily a goal we've had consciously. And that's a fun part of life, that sometimes life surprises you with something you would never have thought of. And it turns out, I've used this expression, I got in touch with the dream I never knew I had. And this has happened repeatedly in my life, where something occurred, somebody gave me an opportunity and thought, damn, this was a dream come true, but I never even knew I had the dream. But it feels that way when you're doing it.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, I want to comment on that. It's phenomenal. And again, I'm going to ask a question. So if our viewers are ready, I want you to type in the word "let's go" as one. It's one word. Let's go. LETSGO. One word. Let's go. Anyway, yeah. So it's interesting, right? So I think there's a tendency sometimes, especially as you get a little bit older, for us to kind of be, I don't know, a little closed-minded. And one of the things I pride myself on is I look at, I heard the expression like this: if you don't open the door and peek your head in, you don't know what's going to be behind the door. And I think sometimes we have a tendency to be a little bit too closed-minded. I don't know if it's a Northeast Coast thing. I don't know, and you're from New York originally, but yeah, but it's everywhere, right? So it's just, there's a tendency to just be closed-minded, but just be open, because you don't know. I mean, look at this. I would have first of all, okay, I found out about LinkedIn Live. I was like, okay, kicks and giggles, I'll throw my hat in the ring. And I put an application in at the time when there was an application you had to get approved for, and I got accepted. So now I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And then I speak to Cameron, and here we are. And now, Cameron and I, and this partnership, so to speak, has been phenomenal as a result of just being open to just trying something. You never know, right? You still know where things are going to really go. It's pretty special, pretty amazing. But not to get back to the age thing, but I was just, we were talking about it before. I like going to Florida. The weather's nice in Florida. I'm sure it's even nicer in Southern California, or at least just as nice. But, when I would go there and I'd go visit my grandma, and God rest her soul, but it was awesome. But, it's funny when you go hang out with older people, the things that they're talking about is the next 3 meals and healthcare issues, and doctor stuff. And that was it, and so when you get around people, and again, youth it's a perspective. It's not a chronological thing, right? Because, I look at you, even though you're a little older than me, not by much, but, I look at you as very youthful, right? And so, but again, staying young, staying fresh, being open, all that is so important, in terms of, growing as a person.
I want to throw out a challenge to people, because part of how I prove my my point about how important and how essential staying young at heart and staying playful in our energetics, how important that is notice yourself the next time you're in the presence of a small human, that a niece or nephew, grandchild, whatever it may be, and notice what happens to your personality. You start acting different. You start talking different. You're not acting. You're not trying to be the role of somebody to be. You just automatically, you see those kids playing on the floor with their dolls or their animals or whatever they're playing with. We want to be that thing. Well, guess what? We still are. Because why do you think people want to be grandparents more than parents? Because they just get to be the playful part that's still in them. And this is what I'm trying to tell people: is it hasn't died unless you haven't been watering it enough and not giving it proper sunlight. But here's the other point that I learned in this idea of how we can kind of shut down and become less open and more resistant as life continues. Back in the heart math days, we discovered this relationship between attitude and physiology. And one of the key phrases that I actually coined there was flexible attitudes build flexible physiology. And the reverse is also true. So one of the reasons people love things like yoga later in life is because the very stiff muscles that have happened for years of not moving as fluidly as they might want to do start to stretch out. More oxygen is getting through the blood, more oxygen is getting to the muscles. Well, guess what? When that energy is increasing, we tend to be more open to, I feel better. And that tends to open our mind to possibility. Hey, sure, let's try that. That yoga thing is working out better than I was expecting. And so flexible attitudes build flexible physiology. And a lot of us felt very locked down for 2.5 years, locked down emotionally. Oh, yeah. And so because so many things felt like were being taken away. I haven't seen my daughter in 2.5 years.
Wow.
I'm going to see her next month. And luckily there's FaceTime. Luckily there's Zoom.
Sure.
But the other day we were laughing hysterically. I said, I love that we can laugh hysterically on FaceTime, but I really want to do it. So then at the end we hug. I just really need that.
Absolutely.
No, she's not resisting at all, by the way. We can't wait. But I guess my point being that lockdown feeling that we've had has been hard on our bodies, let alone on our emotions. So we got to work the opposite for that and say, okay, sometimes it's hard to want to stretch, whether that's emotionally or physically, but the stretching that we do opens us up in ways that without it, we're just not open.
I love that. And, I've got a good friend of mine. I'll shout him out, Hugh Ryan, who I've known for 20 plus years. And the guy is around my age. He's jacked. And when I go work out with him, the times I have, he's a maniac on a spin bike. He's like insane. But the first 45 minutes of his workout is stretching. And he said he's been doing that for years, and he's got an incredible physique. And so stretching is so important. And I've fortunately, over just before COVID, I actually started a stretching practice as part of my overall, morning routine. And it's been so amazing. I agree with you. It's not just physical, but it's also, there's emotional and a spiritual aspect of that as well.
Like the old expression about the comfort zone. I need to get out of my comfort zone.
Sure.
I've redefined that a little bit and said, actually, wouldn't it be better to expand your comfort zone?
I love it.
If we step out of it for a weekend of a retreat that we would normally do, and then we go back into it, what good was that? What about expanding our comfort zone so it's easier to try new things, easier to relate to people, easier to entertain ideas, because we've expanded it. We're a little more comfortable with it. Okay, I used to be really uncomfortable with the idea of meditation, but now I'm kind of realizing it's okay. So my comfort zone is expanded now. I can less things will bother me. And that's, I think, really key to this idea of where we want to go, whether it's with our career or just life in general.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I want to ask you a question, and I want the audience to participate here a little bit. And since you're a heart guy, right? If the audience or community is ready for the next question, I'd like you to put a big emoji heart, not hit the heart button, although you can do that too. But I want you to put in the comments the little heart emoji, okay? If you're ready for the next question here. Now, this kind of reflects off of kind of what you started talking about. As Cameron and I, I've been on a very big self-discovery, self-growth journey for years, for 20 years. As a result of a mentor in my life, he set me on that course of self-development. And I know you're big on self-growth as well. And you mentioned, meditation, reflection, you mentioned journaling, but I'm curious, what are some other best practices? And maybe that's it, I don't know, but that have been really influential in helping you with real change and growth in your life?
Yeah, great question. Well, in this model, and Sharon's been referring to it in the notes a little bit, I've created this creativity course thanks to Stanford and asking me to do it a few years ago. And I call them 5 catalysts. And so you've already touched on a couple of them, Steve. One of them being mindfulness, being more self-aware. What am I really feeling? What's really going on? Why is that knot in my stomach not going away? Is it that meeting I've got later today that's still bugging me? So self-awareness through mindfulness and heartfulness. Then there's just movement. I've noticed, yes, I'm a dancer, but I've noticed when I'm too sedentary, my mind becomes numb and it becomes more sedentary. And I'm less flexible to think of new solutions and whatnot. So sometimes just physically getting outside, if you can, unless the weather is too ridiculous, physically getting outside, but doing some movement that you really love, like a walk through the woods, or putting on the music when you're by yourself and dancing your tushy off, because you know how good you feel when you do that. And so movement is huge. The third one, I just simply say nature. Yeah, it's great when it's summer, nice weather, except unless you're in Phoenix or certain places where summer is the last place you want to be is in Phoenix. But whatever the time of year or the issue may be, nature itself can give an enormous salve to our tired, weary souls. It can become a way to restore our energy when we've been just so drained and so exhausted from the relentlessness of all that we've all been dealing with in our own ways. And so being out in nature and tuning into the fact that whatever's going on to humanity, nature keeps on doing its thing. It keeps on breathing for us. It keeps on giving sun to us. It keeps on giving warmth. Yes, it gets destructive. All that happens. But nature is a huge part. And a fourth one, I've already touched on the fourth one, which is playfulness. If you take away anything from today, think about how can I be more playful in my life? Not inappropriately. But the last one is artistic expression. And my attitude is that if we will stretch ourselves and dance when we feel like we got 2 left feet, write when we feel like we're not a good writer, do a poem, just stretch ourselves in that way, not because we're trying to become a professional, any of those things, but just to stretch our creative capacity. That in itself just is a very refreshing way to grow. And sometimes we find, wow, I'm better at that than I thought. I really like to write. I never knew I'd like to write so much. So those elements all make for a full life. That's great.
Well, Bruce, I know you're from New York. Maybe you got a little Yiddish in you because you talked about tushy before. So the actual Yiddish tuchas, in case anyone wants to know, tuchas, right? But anyway, yeah, that's pretty funny. So we want to ask one last question before, as we wrap up the show here, and at the end of that, maybe you can give people a little bit of how they could best reach you. So if our amazing community is ready for this last and final, I just want you to type in the little icon, the question mark icon. Just type in the little question mark, okay? Like the Joker, right? Or the Riddler, I think it is, right? From Batman. But the little question mark, if you're ready. So really, and this is what the show is, and you've been kind of telling us all along through everything you've been telling us, but we want to know in maybe a sentence or two for you, what does the phrase leadership mentoring mean to you, Bruce?
To me, everyone, whether their business role, career role is as a quote leader, still has the opportunity to be a leader of themselves. And it's their life, it's your life, it's my life, to lead and not just be a follower or not just be a victim of what's happening to us. So I think everyone can grow in taking leadership of their life. And most anyone who's ever lived and walked the face of the earth who is grateful for what they've learned is because someone or someone's helped them along that way. They were a mentor to them in that process. So leadership mentoring is sharing what we've learned, scars and all, and being willing to ask the challenging questions of the person wanting that mentoring, but with a warm heart, with a hug around the shoulders, with whatever's needed to help that person who is genuinely wanting to improve their life and improve their career. That's what a mentor loves to do when you know you're born to mentor. You want to do that for that person.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah. I think leadership is it could be positional, but mentoring is really when you're truly bringing somebody along. So appreciate that very much. So if you could just, as we wrap up the show, tell people the best way to reach you, and definitely please, community, reach out to Bruce. He's an amazing asset. We're so blessed to have you on the show, but tell the audience what, final word or two and how the best can reach you, please.
Well, first of all, thanks to both of you, Steve and Cameron. What an honor to be on your show. You guys have awesome energy.
Bruce, and I wanted to squeeze this in. I was on. It's not a Master Connection show if I'm not a mute once, right? But
that's right.
I just wanted to say for folks that are a part of our community, and if you're joining us first time in the community, we just love the fact that you're here. You make this show what it is, but don't waste this opportunity. You're on with Bruce. In the comments, ask those questions, push the connect button. Steve has been an incredible mentor to me. And so by pushing the connect button, I've expanded my network, expanded my opportunities. And so right now in this moment, get into Bruce's profile, hit that connect button, create that connection today. Become a mentee, become a mentor. And with that, Bruce, I'll let you take it away here. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that invitation. I'm putting something in the chat. Will everybody see this, what I put in the chat? Or is that just going to Steve and Cameron? So what I put up on the screen is there's a URL. I have a website, my name, brucepryor.com. Anybody who's watching this show, there's two free gifts that you can get if you would like. One is a ebook on creativity, and the other is a very inspiring slideshow of quotes and gorgeous images of nature, a few of which I took, but most of which are just remarkable photos. Thank you, Cameron. There it is. That's it exactly. So anybody who wants that, it's free. You just have to give me your name so I know who you are. And I'd love to meet you one day.
That's awesome. Great stuff. Awesome. Phenomenal. All right. So we're going to end the show as we always do. And listen, community, as Cameron said, take advantage of who we have here. Make sure, if you haven't done that so far, share out this live link, because it does, people could watch it on the replay. So I'll ask our community, our amazing community, go into the share button and share this out. If you liked it, share it, get it out to people, because Bruce's message is one that's incredible. And a lot of people need to hear this message as well. So, but we're going to count down to crush it. And so, Bruce, I'm not sure if you're familiar with our little ritual here, but we always want to bring the show to a close with inspiration. And, again, our mission on the show is to be the light, uplift, inspire, and encourage. And we want everyone to go out and crush it and be that light for the world here. So we're going to count down, and we hope you will participate with us, Bruce. And also, community, you can count down in the comments if you want to, and then shout out in the comments, crush it as we
hashtag crush it. Let's go.
All right. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Crush it.
Have an amazing week, everybody. We will be back next week for a really great show with Joshua Meredith, intentional networking. We're excited to talk about this subject because there is no greater topic that we love more than networking. So join us next week. Network in the comments. Make sure you're networking right now. Same bad time, same bad channel. We will see you next week. Thank you guys for being so active in the comments today. You make this show what it is. We're so deeply, deeply appreciative of you. Have an amazing week.
Steve Spiro, you're a mentor, you're a consultant, you're a business owner, but most importantly, you're a host of your own show, and you're also a master connector.
Steve Spiro is one of my idols, and I love listening to everything that he does. He's such a dynamic individual.
Some of the topics I really enjoy speaking on is how to really connect, whether it be in person or through social media. I love to lead with my weaknesses. I lead with, my vulnerabilities. It's fine because I'm okay with who I am. Number 2 is how to go from being inward focused, self-focused, into others focused. Be willing to give and go out there and look to serve. That will attract the right things. Another one is on leveraging LinkedIn to really grow your business. You could reach a lot more people. You could broadcast a message to people that actually consented to want to know you. And then lastly, overcoming big obstacles.
I love sharing. I was a shy, introverted kid, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic, really in a dark place. I was really in a box, Michelle, and I've been able to break out of that box. And so I love being able to inspire people and really help them. So the Master Connector was born.
The world is my networking event, right? I meet people all the time. My goal is to meet 3 strangers every single day.
Steve is open to meeting you. You should set up a face-to-face with Steve. One little conversation can really change your life.